Yeah. But what's fascinating for people, I think, is just the feeling of being with them. It's almost everybody I know who's been with dolphins, swum with dolphins in the wild, there's this sense of presence, of acceptance. It's hard to define, but you come out and you feel different. There's a sense of, for me, an inner freedom, a sort of opening of the heart that comes from being with them.
You know, I think that's what we each want, because it's so rare to have, is your insight, your experience, because so few people have the opportunity to actually dive in and explore like you have in the water, not only with dolphins, but also with whales, and I know, with sharks. So you're a man of some considerable experience, and I'd love just to hear more from that.
Well, yes. I've swum with whales a bit. It's harder to swim with whales because it's technically illegal in a number of countries to actually, particularly humpback whales, because they're endangered species. But there are places like Tahiti, Fiji, Dominican Republic, where they allow small numbers of people to swim with whales. And that's a much more powerful experience because you feel with a whale. I mean, they're so gentle and huge and so gracious, and you have this sense of the mind of the whale is this vast stillness, just this incredible sense of space and stillness. It's a very quiet feeling with it, whereas dolphins are much more energetic and playful. The whale is this like deep still feeling. It's a wonderful feeling being with whales. And sharks, yes, when sharks are fished, that was an accident that happened last year when we were actually swimming with pilot whales, which are small whales. We were about 3 miles off the coast in deep water, and about sort of 40, 50 pilot whales. And pilot whales are often followed by sharks because they're looking for sort of scraps and things. And so we were always on a lookout for sharks, but I'd never seen any before. And we got in with the pilot whales and were swimming with them. And these sharks turned up, 2 oceanic whitetips, which are big sharks, and also then a bit later a Galapagos shark. And I thought I'd be scared, you know, because I'd never been with a big shark, and I thought this is scary. Yeah. 2 people belted back for the boat. But the captain has been with them a lot. He's been in those waters, and he said it's cool. He said the thing is, like any wild animal, face it. If you turn away, it'll sneak up behind you, but face it. And what I found was it would come up towards you, swim towards you, and then sort of turn away again. And then sort of like, I'm not really interested in you. It had probably never seen a person before. But I was just awed by how graceful and beautiful these creatures are. They're like the lions of the sea in their element. And these are big creatures. You know, they could take a leg off just like that. But they didn't. They were just inquisitive. And I was totally aware. I was watching, you know, all around me, make sure none were coming up from behind, but just it was a magnificent experience just to be in the water with large ocean-going shark out in the deep water. Fascinating experience. I'll never forget that.
When you go to the ocean, and I know you take tours and explore this with people, what is it that you want them most of all to take from that experience?
I call the workshops the wisdom of the dolphin, and it's really what can we learn about ourselves from being in the presence of another intelligent species. And I don't think there's any species on land, maybe elephants, but there's probably no other species on land, or possibly gorillas and chimpanzees again, which have that sort of intelligence. But I think whales and dolphins are more intelligent than chimpanzees or elephants. So we're with another very intelligent species which isn't caught up in the sort of thinking, manipulative consciousness, the materialism that we've got caught up in. And they, as I said before, they touch something in us. And so what I'm interested in is what can we learn for ourselves about our own journey, our own process of awakening from being with these creatures. And so it's really an opportunity to reflect back upon ourselves and how we live and what's important in our own lives.
So, and what does come back? You've done this so many times. Say just a little bit more about the wisdom of the dolphin that does come back to people.
I think it's there's this thing I mentioned, there's a heart opening, and it varies for different people. I know for me there's this sense of opening of the heart, there's an inner stillness that's there. Something else I know people get is this sense of flow and playfulness that's there. It affects people in different ways. For some people, it's a deep, deep emotional experience. I remember one person just the first time in the water. The first time is often very, very powerful. He just burst into tears. It was just like...
Do dolphins migrate?
No. Dolphins hang out they'll travel a bit, but they basically hang out in one place. Yeah. But whales, like the humpback whale, this amazes me. The year of a humpback whale's life. I mean, they go to the Arctic regions to feed, and so from California or from Hawaii, they'll go up to Alaska, and there they feed on krill for sort of 3 months. They just gorge and just feed up, and that's it. They have this one meal. It lasts about 3 months.
A 3-month meal. In
3-month meal, and then they swim down, and the mothers are already pregnant because they got inseminated before they went north. They get inseminated down in the tropics. So they swum up there pregnant. They gorge on this food. They swim down to the tropics, and then they give birth there. They give birth in Hawaii or Fiji and places where you go swim with them. They give birth. They then feed this baby on mother's milk until it's about the third the size of the adult. It becomes huge. All of this from this one feeding.
From one feeding.
The baby grows from the milk, and then when they're ready, about 3 months after the baby's born, mother and baby swim back to Alaska to feed.
Extraordinary.
So all of that energy is just spread over slowly over 9 months, feeding the baby and giving the baby all the energy it needs to both grow and to swim back with the mother.
Wow. Well, what's been happening to the world of dolphins, whales, and so on as we humans have conquered the oceans?
Yes, it's
happening?
been tragic. I mean, some have become extinct. Some whales. Yes, some have become severely threatened. The blue whale is actually, which comes up the California coast here, and it's actually around at the moment. It's out on the edge of the continental shelf. There's only a few of those left. They're seriously endangered. They're the biggest creatures on the planet.
The blue whale.
100 feet long. 100 feet. They're huge thing. When you're with those, it's like, wow. The humpback whale is coming back. Whales are protected now, and so they are coming back. But they're still in dangerous situations. The right whale, some of the right whales are threatened with extinction. And some of the dolphins may become extinct, particularly, you see, as human activity begins to damage the oceans and the food chain begins to collapse. Those creatures are dependent upon fish or whales. A lot of whales eat krill, shrimp-like things, which, depend upon plankton. And as the oceans become more acidic with global warming and more carbon dioxide absorbed into the water, the plankton die off. When the plankton die, the little creatures don't get fed, the krill don't get fed, and all the way up.
All the way up.
So they're under danger as well, not just from human hunting, which has been the big danger in the past. They're now in danger because of what we're doing to the oceans, just damaging the whole food chain.
To the whole food chain.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that the bottom 40% of the food chain in the ocean, and that's where the krill reside and the rest, that is being severely impaired right now.
Yes.
And so the bottom of the food chain is being impaired, and at the same time, the top of the food chain, the large fish and such, they're being fished out as well. And so we're creating circumstances, and I really wonder to what extent can dolphins survive humans? Can whales survive humans? Not just, let's say, hunting, as you were suggesting, but can these conscious creatures survive the world that we are creating?
Yeah, this is a real question. I mean, I hope so. I really hope so. But if we don't clean up our act, if we really damage the planet severely, which we might do if we're not careful. If we really damage the planet severely, not just the land, but the oceans, then there's the real danger that these creatures, which have been living there for 20 million years, some of them 40 million years, some of those creatures, they've been in the water. They were land animals once. It's interesting, they were land animals that actually went back to the water. But they've been living there for millions of years in harmony with the environment. And then suddenly human beings who've only been around for a million years or two come along and in just the last few hundred years start screwing the whole thing up and threatening these species, which have been very happy and content.
Yeah.
And this to me is probably one of the more serious, well, there's many serious ramifications of what we're doing, but to be destroying a species which is probably as intelligent as us in different ways, more intelligent in some ways. I mean, you could say a species that destroys its environment is not that intelligent. Yeah. They're more intelligent the way they live in their environment. The fact that we could destroy another intelligent or a number of intelligent species just inadvertently.
Right.
It's not only destroying the planet, it's setting evolution back millions of years. Who knows whether such beautiful creatures will ever arise again on this planet?
How can we respond to this? I mean, given that we tend to focus on the land, I do. I'm a land creature. I look at the land and I worry about the land. I don't give that much thought to the oceans. But here you are with a life of experience in the oceans. What do you have to say to me as a land person?
I think it's all one. I mean, we're talking about the effect of global warming on the plankton. So if we're consuming less oil, we're putting less carbon dioxide in the atmosphere just by the way we live, by reducing our oil consumption, that is not only having an effect on the air, on the land here, it's having an effect on the waters. So in a way, it's like the more we live a more sustainable lifestyle, the more that's going to impact the whole planet. But then we have to watch what we dump in the oceans as well in terms of toxic products. And there's this huge whirl of plastic in the Pacific now. It's all gathering, a lot of the plastic that's thrown in. People are trying to actually go out and clear it up. But things like this, we need to be careful of what we put in the oceans.
I'm mindful of the work that you've done filming in the oceans and bringing our consciousness into the oceans where these wonderful creatures live. And I'm wondering to what extent you see that as a part of the awakening that needs to happen for us to reconnect with our cousins of the ocean.
Yeah, and there's many other people film. I think any film of nature is important. I mean, the films of dolphins and whales underwater is so moving because we normally just see them from the surface when they break the surface, but to see their life underwater, the way they dance and play and things is so moving. So I think the film is important, but equally, films of, giraffes in Africa, any wild animal, or even, films of little mice doing their things, it all just brings us back to that appreciation and awe of nature.
Nature and the natural mind, that's one theme that seems to be coming out of our conversations together, is appreciation of the natural mind, and we can see that mind in the waters and the oceans and the whales and the dolphins.
And I think that's what we have to get back to, is coming back to our own natural mind. And by that I mean the mind before we get cluttered up with worry, anxiety and judgment and fear and all the stuff that runs our lives. But we have that capacity in all of us, just settle back, to get back into the ease of just being. And I think that's the challenge that's really facing us in the world today, is how do we reclaim that?
Indeed. Well said.
Thank you,
Pete.